the first thing I heard actually quite frequently is that on the trail side, especially in the longer distances, so like maybe your ultras, 100 miles and stuff like that, there aren't actually any drugs which are considered to be performance enhancing. A lot of them are like on the power, on the speed side. And in parallel to that, the ecosystem or the money or the incentive for cheating in a lot of, again, the longer distances isn't really there. So we don't really need anti-doping because there is no incentive to dope. How would you look at an argument like that?
Yeah. So first, dealing with the physiological side. I mean, I know ultra and is very different. The longer the distance, it's very different to the marathon, for example. But I'd be very, very surprised if there weren't serious benefits to doping in training, in being able to train harder, recover more, recover faster. Because I mean, the reality is in the elite marathon, we're long past the days of super doses of EPO to do an incredible effort in the marathon. The doping that we're dealing with day to day with the very best marathoners in the world is all to do with training harder and harder and harder, recovering better, doing more harder sessions than your opponent. And I think that would apply equally in on the trail for sure. Uh, so I think that's that side of it. That's the reality of doping that we see, and I think it's relevant to, well, not only to ultra and trail, but to a lot of other sports out there that require endurance and repeat a large number of races, whether it's tennis or football or anything like that. That's the kind of doping that's really happening out there at the top level. Um, in terms of the incentives to dope, I mean, it's absolutely true that the more money and the more prestige, the more incentive there is to dope. There's no question about that. It's just a mathematical kind of formula that does hold true. But people have intrinsic motivations to dope, and there's lots of examples of people at a very low amateur level doping uh, in various sports. The thing that's an issue for all sports is that in these days, the doping substances, especially the type that help you recover better and train harder, are more and more available in society than they ever have been before. All the hormone replacement therapy stuff, all the stuff that's in gyms, that's really highly available now in many societies, are the things that can help athletes in endurance events, and that includes steroids, anabolic properties. They're all the things that help you recover and train harder in the right doses.
Interesting. Yeah. And you talked a bit about the dosage of like how it used to be in the past and a high dose of EPO. Like I once heard you say something to the effect that you're looking for like the equivalent of a few granules of sand in a pool. Like this is the level of detection that you're kind of after. So what is kind of the current, I don't know if it's the right current technology, but like what are we looking at the moment in terms of like what are athletes taking to try and beat the system?
Yeah, sure. So the the issue we have right now in athletics and in an event like the marathon, I'll use as an example, is that we do a lot of testing in the marathon, and we test very deep down into the top ranked athletes. The top 150 men and 150 women in the world are in our registered testing pool, which means that they have to provide us with whereabouts, where they are every day for an hour, every day of the year, so we can find them and test them. So there's a very deep range, a large professional cohort that are under our control from an anti-doping point of view. Um, uh, those athletes have to be careful, or they know we can catch them. So 15 years ago, they might take big doses of EPO, um, which will really supercharge them for a huge performance on race day with very high hemoglobin levels. But they can't do that anymore. It's too easy to detect. So they're really focused on doping to train harder and recover better from their training sessions. When they dope in this way, they're using smaller doses of EPO, for example, microdosing. They're using substances like testosterone, nandrolone precursors, or other anabolics in small doses, which are only detectable for a very short amount of time. So that could be 12 hours, 24 hours. So we need to place a test at the exact right time to be able to catch someone. If we come a day too late, it's too late. So it's a real cat and mouse game. It makes the testing very difficult to catch someone. But that's why our testing systems are very much intelligence based. We plan all of our testing to the day and to the hour, using all the best available intelligence, whether it's biological information, intelligence from within the field, the whereabouts data, performance data is all tracked to make sure our tests place at the right time for the right athlete, and for the right substance. And that's what we're trying to do.
I remember watching a documentary. I think it was a BBC documentary, and I think it's on YouTube. It probably still is. And I think it was called, if I remember correctly, Catch Me If You Can. I don't know if you remember it or if you ever saw it. It was basically this guy who tried to do essentially at home doping, literally not consulting with a doctor, buying I think it was EPO off the internet, administering it himself, and then being subject to essentially, I think it was tests alongside WADA. And just based on open information, he managed to essentially pass the test while he was showing us kind of his doping protocol. On the bad guy side, are we, or maybe on the good guy side, are the tools good enough that that we are past that point? Like it now needs real specific and like knowledgeable people on the space, or is it still potentially a bit of a free for all?
Um, no, it's potentially a bit of a free for all. Yeah.
Oh.
Um, you really need to. I mean, yeah, the substances are hard to detect. Okay,
Mm.
and if someone's taking testosterone creams or gels to help them recover and train harder, that's in and out of someone's system in a very short amount of time, and they don't need a fancy scientist or doctor really to tell them. This is kind of easily attainable information and knowledge. The way we counter that at the AIU is that the testing has to be really intelligence based, and as I said, we need to test at the exact right day and hour that we want the test to take place. And that's what all of our test planning is about. An anti-doping organisation could easily just send out, you know, test this guy 5 times in a year, whenever, and you just, for an elite athlete, you're never ever going to catch them. Like it's you know, that's just the reality. Um, uh, but yeah, like I said, the availability of the drugs, especially around hormone replacement therapy. That's just sort of the sort of thing people use increasingly more and more at the gym to look good, to feel good, lifestyle sort of type use. That's available everywhere, and so easily attainable by athletes. Um, and a lot of it, peptides, testosterone, is not easy to detect.